The Ashes of Andromeda. A science fiction audiobook series. Part 2. I was on a frozen plateau. Twin moons above. A child ran across the ice, laughing. She called out, "Mama, look." My heart caught. I don't have a daughter. I never had a child. But I knew that laugh. I felt love. And then it cracked. The sky split. The ice bled light. And a voice, calm and vast, whispered, "You forgot us. We remember you." The console shorted out. I yanked the band off and gasped like I'd been drowning. The officer stared at me like I'd grown extra limbs. "What did you see?" he asked. I didn't answer. How do you explain a memory you never lived? How do you explain a daughter who only exists in someone else's truth? The others were pulled into separate testing rooms. They came back with different faces. Not bruised. Not broken. Just rearranged. Like the signal was sorting us. Trying on different versions of us. Picking the ones it liked best. The scary part wasn't what it showed us. It was how accurate it all felt. As if deep down, beneath flesh and fact, those echoes were already part of us. There's a point where doubt turns into certainty. Not because you found the truth, but because the lie you were living collapses under its own weight. I reached that point in sublevel 3 of the black site. The part nobody was supposed to know about. The part with the locked terminal and the unmarked files. 12 years ago, signal control black site, sublevel 3. They told us not to explore. Which, of course, made me explore. Security had been rerouted that night. Most likely due to another incident with Corinne. He'd tried to rig a neural patch using a portable comm unit. Burned half his left hand in the attempt. While the guards dealt with that, I slipped down the service hall. Sublevel 3 wasn't on any map they gave us. The access panel wasn't even labeled. It was just a matte gray door with a broken pressure seal and a warning sticker half peeled off. Inside, dust coated everything. Old chairs. Storage crates. Empty rations. But in the back, under a thermal sheet, was an old Union black box console. Legacy interface. Still humming. I powered it up. The screen blinked to life. 4 options. Mission logs. Personnel records. Neural sync traces. Experimental simulations. I tapped mission logs first. There were dozens, mostly corrupted or classified. But one played. It was dated 11 years ago. 1 year before we ever stepped foot on Seraphis Drift. It showed a recon team in similar gear. Same patch. Same unit designation. One of the women in the squad walked past the camera. And Jack. It was me. Younger. Cleaner cut. Same voice, same walk. Same scar under the jaw from a training accident I've never told anyone about. The log was clear. Team Lira 7 deployed to Drift Surface Beta. Initial contact unsuccessful. Subject initiated signal pattern ghost. I paused the log. Lira 7. Like I was just a designation? A test unit? I pulled up neural sync traces. There were 7 entries, Lira 1 through Lira 7. All terminated. All labeled Echo Collapse. And then a final entry. Lira 8, active deployment under observation. That's when I realized something cold. I wasn't the first me. I was the latest. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I shut the console down and covered it back with the thermal sheet. Back in my assigned suite, I stared at my reflection for hours. Looking for signs. A twitch. A glitch. A missing memory. A fake expression. But all I saw was me. And that's what scared me the most. I don't know what I am. But I know now that I was designed to find them. The signal. The voice. The source. Which means this war. It didn't start when they attacked. It started the day I was activated. And I'm beginning to wonder. If this signal isn't invading us, what if it's calling us home? People think collapse happens all at once. A bridge snaps. A ship implodes. A soldier falls. But that's not how it is. Collapse happens in layers. Little failures stacked so deep you don't notice them. Until everything falls at once. 12 years ago, signal control black site, day 9. Corinne had dismantled one of the handheld scanners and spread its parts across the floor like puzzle pieces. He didn't sleep anymore. His beard was patchy. His lips were cracked. He spoke in fragments, like code snippets were bleeding into his thoughts. "You knew, didn't you?" I said carefully, kneeling beside him. He didn't look up. He just kept rotating a copper coil between two fingers. "You saw it too," I pushed. "The logs. The iterations." Corinne finally spoke. Quiet. Matter of fact. "We're not just studying the signal. We're shaped by it." "What does that mean?" I asked. He turned, eyes twitching like he was chasing shadows. "They didn't build this tech," he muttered. "They found it. And then they started fitting people into the mold." I went cold. "How many molds, Corinne?" He stared at me for a long second, then whispered, "You're number 8. Rena screamed that night. They had her strapped to a low-gravity bed in the medbay. When I got there, she was convulsing, repeating the same phrase. "No sky, no sky, no sky." The med techs flooded her with suppressants. She didn't stop. They increased gravity to pin her down. Didn't work. Lights flickered. Panels on the walls started sparking. And then the temperature dropped. Fast. Ice crystals formed on the inside of the walls. One of the guards slipped trying to flee the room. And Rena's eyes snapped wide. They were glowing. Just for a second. But I saw it. A flicker of bright silver blue, like the stars in the outer belt. Then she passed out cold. The room returned to normal. Lights steady. Walls thawing. We'd crossed a line. The signal wasn't just reacting to instruments. It was reacting to us. To pain. To fear. To memory. Like it could taste what we felt. And the stronger the emotion, the clearer it answered back. Later that night, my quarters. I played the terminal logs again. There were facial scans. Heart rate spikes. Neural maps from the previous iterations. And every time one of the Lira models broke emotionally, when they cried or screamed or hit something, the signal would light up in identical ways. Echo collapse. Not a failure. Not a death. A contact point. I wasn't here to avoid collapse. I was here to reach it. Some things you can explain. Malfunctions. Chemical imbalance. Fatigue. But when 5 people see the same impossible thing at the same time, that's not a glitch. That's a message. 12 years ago, Signal Control Blacksite, Day 10. Rena woke up quiet. The usual sharpness in her face was gone.
No jokes. No smirks.
Just a slow blink, and a flat stare at the ceiling. I sat beside her bed. "Do you know where you are?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "The black site. Subsurface level. Union protocol says it doesn't exist." "Do you know who I am?" She looked at me for a long second. Then shook her head.
No.
"What do you remember?" Rena whispered. "I remember a sky made of mirrors. And a tower that breathed like a living thing." I leaned in. "That's not from your childhood. That's not even real. That's..." "It is," she said. Voice calm. I was standing on a balcony made of stone. The stars weren't our stars. They were slower. Slower. Like they didn't burn. Just watched. That same morning, Corinne started drawing again. He taped pages to the walls of his bunk. A circle of light. Fractal geometry. Symbols that looked vaguely familiar, but not Union, not any known alien script. Each page was labeled the same word. Velos. When I asked him what it meant, he didn't blink. That's where the signal was born. 1,400 hours, observation deck. They called us all up to the glass-paneled observatory for mandatory radiation recalibration. Union protocols required it every 10 days for deep-core sites. But we never got that far. Because when the window shutters rolled up, none of us recognized what we were looking at. It wasn't the Seraphis drift system. The local sun was gone. The gas giant we orbited? Not there. Instead, a deep blue nebula hanging in every direction, with 3 sharp points of light that formed a perfect triangle in the sky.
Corinne whispered, "No sky."
Rena just started laughing. A tired, broken laugh that didn't stop. One of the junior guards vomited into a panel bucket. "Is this a sim?" someone shouted. Shut up, I snapped, backing away from the glass. This isn't real. But it felt real. The deck temperature was right. The magnetic field registered on instruments. Even our vitals didn't spike, except from stress. That was the worst part. Our bodies believed it. Our bodies thought we were somewhere else. I tried logging a security override that night. I wanted confirmation, external contact, time drift, anything. The console denied my clearance. Then it flashed a message I'll never forget. Welcome back, Lira 8. Velos is waiting. There's a difference between losing control and realizing you never had it. One is panic. The other is clarity. And clarity, when it comes too late, is a kind of violence. 12 years ago, Signal Control Black Site, Day 11. I used to believe that data couldn't lie. Sensor readings. Gravity distortion maps. Magnetic trace logs. Cold facts. But the last 48 hours had ripped that belief to pieces. We were orbiting a dead gas giant, supposedly. Except now, every viewport showed something else. The sky didn't match Union charts. The gravity scan showed a steady descent. The magnetic field? It was pulsing in triplets, something we'd only seen in one other place. The original Velo's signal, deep beyond the known Starline. Corin had stopped talking in full sentences. He just sat at the mess table, scribbling on his arm with a grease pen. Rena hadn't left the observatory since yesterday. She just sat cross-legged by the glass, staring at the stars that shouldn't be there. When I brought her food, she finally spoke. I dreamed of a city last night, she said, voice steady.
A city made of sound.
You don't walk through it, you resonate through it.
Rena, tats not memory.
That's brain trauma, I said gently, sitting beside her.
No Lira Shesait, turning to ME.
That's where we're going. 1,600 hours, base core server vault. I forced my way into the archive mainframe with a bypass key from command. My clearance had been reset without explanation. Somebody or something didn't want me digging. Tough shit. Inside the server vault, the air smelled like burning ozone. One of the coolant tubes had burst and resealed itself. Which was impossible. That system was supposed to fail open.
I plugged in the portable decryptor.
There were 6 flagged folders buried under military access levels I wasn't supposed to have.
All labelt zusammen ting. Velos Protocol. Rekursive Memory Index.
I opened the first file. It wasn't data. It was a recording.
Visual and neural.
Me. Same face. Same voice. But I wasn't in uniform. I was in a white suit. Standing in a chamber I'd never seen before. With walls that moved, breathed. No one remembers the first collapse, my copy whispered in the file. But we always remember the stars. We build from the fragments. We come back changed. Then it cut to black.
6 recordings. 6 versions of ME. All different.
All aware of each other. Each one warning the next. But I never remembered recording a single one. Which means, I wasn't the first. And I probably wouldn't be the last. There's a kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. It means people are thinking things they're afraid to say out loud. And on day 12, that silence nearly tore us apart. 12 years ago, Signal Control Black Site, Day 12. I gathered the team in Rec Room 2. Not because it was secure, nothing felt secure anymore, but because it had 4 walls and no windows. I uploaded the Velo's recordings to the holotable. 6 versions of me. 6 timelines. Or simulations. Or lives. I didn't even know anymore. You need to see this, I said. Rena crossed her arms. Her face had changed. Less sarcasm, more focus. You're sure they're real? She asked. As real as anything else down here. The first recording played. My voice, but not my memories. Describing a base collapse. A signal echo that grew more intelligent each time it was recovered. And a loop. Always a loop. She's not surprised, Corin mumbled, staring at Rena. Why aren't you surprised? Because I've dreamed this exact conversation, Rena said quietly. Come on. Corin stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. You're messing with us. No, I said firmly, cutting him off. She's not. Look at me, Corin. I don't remember recording these. But they're real. Each file is stamped with Union timestamp protocols. Biometric markers match me. But from where? From when? Nobody answered. The second video played. This time, I was bleeding from the mouth. Talking slower. Whispering about something called the lattice. Some kind of structure that builds itself from thought, memory, and gravity distortion. The third showed me standing next to Rena. Not the Rena in the room, but an older one. Her hair was streaked gray. She looked tired. They talked like they'd done this 100 times. And that's when things broke. I'm not part of this, Corinne snapped, stepping away from the holotable. You think this is some revelation? This is a test. A psych eval. You all failed and I'm the control variable. It's not a test, Corinne, I said. Then what is it? He demanded. A dream? A goddamn fever hallucination. Rena stepped forward slowly. It's a recursion, she said softly. Somewhere along the way, we looped. Maybe not just time. Maybe something deeper. We're not the first versions of ourselves. How do you know that? I asked. Because I remember dying, she said. 2,145 hours, personal quarters. I didn't sleep. Not after that. I replayed the fourth recording 10 times. In it, my copy was calm. Sitting at a console with the Velo's signal running behind her. You will start to forget the before time, she said. It's how the signal protects itself. You lose what came before so you'll accept what comes next. Then she stared straight into the camera. Her last words burned into my brain. You're already in it, Lira. You just haven't accepted it yet. I ran a private scan of the black site's power source. It showed entropy patterns I didn't recognize. Like something underneath the reactor was thinking. And it had been watching us for a long, long time. There's a kind of fear you don't feel in the body. It hums behind the eyes. In the spine. Quiet, patient. Not panic. Not survival. Recognition. Like something ancient just turned toward you. 12 years ago, reactor sublevel 9, 0630 hours. We didn't wake Corinne. He'd spent most of the night pacing his bunk and muttering. When he did fall asleep, it was with a knife clutched to his chest like a child holding a stuffed animal. I didn't blame him. I just didn't want him down there. It was Rena who led the way. She knew the maintenance shafts better than I did. We cut through auxiliary coolant corridors and dropped into a lift tunnel that had no listed destination. It ended in a sublevel I'd never seen on any schematic. Just a short hallway. Seamless walls, cold metal floor. Then a black door with no handle. Rena ran her fingers along the surface. It's warm, she said. I pressed my hand against it too. She was right. Not heat exactly, just a presence. Like the door knew we were here. Before I could speak, it hissed open. Silent hydraulics.
No lights, no sensors.
Just awareness. Inside was a circular room maybe 20 feet wide. Dome ceiling. Smooth walls that looked solid, but pulsed gently with a soft blue glow when we moved. In the center, a single console. But not Union tech. Not even close. It didn't have buttons. Or a screen. Just a translucent plate hovering in midair with symbols etched into it. Symbols that shifted every time I blinked. Then it changed. To English. And my name appeared on the surface. Lira Myles / query access level detected. Welcome back. Did you see that? I asked, my voice low. Rena nodded slowly. It knows you, she said. It knew you before we got here. I moved closer. My heart was thudding, but not from fear. From recognition. Like I'd stood at this exact spot before. I reached out. And the console responded, not with data, not with audio, but with memory. My own. But twisted. Fragmented. I saw flashes. A boy's face I didn't recognize, calling me Mom. A war I hadn't fought in, on a planet that looked like Earth but wasn't. A version of myself wearing red armor, screaming at a sky filled with broken satellites. All at once. And then it stopped. Rena caught me before I collapsed. It's copying you, she said, her voice tight. Or maybe, remembering you. It's not just a console, I whispered. It's a brain. She turned to the glowing wall. Then the room is alive, she said. And it's been waiting. The Velo's signal wasn't a broadcast. It was a breadcrumb. Not from a god. Not from an enemy. From us. From a version of humanity we hadn't met yet, but already were. And now that we'd found this place, it was starting to wake up. I always thought madness would feel like screaming. Like fire in the mind. Panic. Shattered thoughts. But it doesn't. It feels like truth, spoken in the wrong order. And once it starts, you can't unhear it. 12 years ago, Black Site Quarters, Day 13, 1420 hours. Corinne was waiting for us in the corridor. He was barefoot. Eyes bloodshot. Lips moving before we even reached him. There were 4 of you, he mumbled. Then 2. Then none. Then 1 again. I remember all of it. I forget none of it. Rena moved slowly, careful not to startle him. Corinne, what are you talking about? He blinked like he just noticed us. Then he smiled. You left the door open, he said softly. The floor remembered me too. My stomach dropped. You were in the memory room? He nodded. I followed you. You forgot the side entrance. Funny how memory loops work. You never know which version you're playing. He held up his hand. His fingers were covered in ink. Black symbols drawn down to the wrist. Symbols that looked like the ones we'd seen on the console. But his were messier. Jagged. Not etched, scratched. I wrote the truth down, he whispered, holding his palm out toward us. Before I forget again. Rena stared at his hand, then at me. What does it mean? She asked. I didn't know how to answer. Because I recognized the symbols. From my dream the night before. The one where I was somebody else. Someone older. Wiser. Tired. And alone. That version of me wrote those exact same lines on a wall of glass, staring down at Earth. Black Site Command Deck, 1700 hours. We put Corinne in isolation. Not because he was dangerous, but because he wasn't. He was calm. Too calm. He asked for a glass of water. Then he asked if we wanted to know where the signal ends. It ends where we began, he said. Where we stopped being human. I recorded the whole thing. Archived it under Protocol Velo's Phase Echo. Rena sat with him for an hour. When she came back, she looked pale. He quoted me, she said, barely above a whisper. Word for word. From a conversation I haven't had yet. I didn't know what to say. Because when I checked the base logs, the symbols on Corinne's hand didn't match anything in the Union archives. But they did match an old flag patch from a forgotten Earth colony project. A project cancelled in 2189. Before I was born. The Velo's signal doesn't just show you things. It changes you. You don't notice at first. You think you're dreaming. Confused. Just tired. But then you start seeing yourself in mirrors you never stood in front of. You start remembering decisions you never made. And you realize the signal isn't a message. It's a rewrite. You always think the mind breaks first. But the body's more honest. It doesn't lie to you the way the brain does. It reacts. It adapts. It changes, before you even notice. And once that change starts, it doesn't stop. 12 years ago, Isolation Ward, Black Site Medbay, 0515 hours.
Corinne wasn't sleeping.
He just stared at the ceiling and whispered in patterns. 3 syllables forward, 1 backward.
10 Silence. Over and over again.
I stood outside the glass, watching him. The medical scanners had been running for hours. Rena sat at the console, reviewing the data with a deep crease between her brows. Is it psychological? I asked.
She shook her head slowly.
Not just that. She tapped the screen. Look here, his cellular structure. It's off.
He leaned closer.
There were waveforms overlaying his DNA strands. Actual fluctuations.
What the hell is that?
I asked, keeping my voice low. Rena exhaled through her nose.
I don't know.
It's like his genetic code is drifting. Microscopic shifts.
Nothing fatal, but...
But it shouldn't be possible, I finished. Exactly. She pulled up a second file.
Von labelt, CMDR. Myles, V-Blattest, delta redundancy.
I frowned. What is that?
Renna hesitated.
You had a test 2 weeks ago.
Routine scan. Iran a cross-reference for anomalies like Corins.
She turned the monitor. And you have them too. I felt my jaw tighten. That's not funny, Ren. I'm not joking, she said, dead serious. They're smaller than his.
Almost invisible.
But they're there. I took a step back from the glass. My stomach twisted. What does it mean? Rena stared at the display for a long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. It means the signal isn't just in our heads, Lira. She looked up at me. It's in our blood now. Command room, 2 hours later. I listened to my own voice. The recording Rena handed me came from the console log archives. It was time-stamped 2 days ago. The system swore it had been recorded by me. But I'd never said those words in my life. We're not here to escape the recursion, the voice said. My voice. We're here to complete it. I hit pause. My hands were cold. This is fake, I said. Rena didn't argue. Or it hasn't happened yet, she said softly. Either way, we're in it now. Recursion isn't repetition. It's mutation. Every loop adds something. Every memory alters the body. Every word rewrites a line of code we didn't know we had. And now the signal is rewriting us. From the inside out. They say if you want to break a soldier, show them their own funeral. But that's not true. You don't have to show them the ceremony, the casket, the folded flag. Just let them read the autopsy. 12 years ago, command room, Black Site Core, 1,310 hours. The folder was buried 4 security layers deep. Rena found it by accident, chasing an anomaly in the Velo's signal archive. It was marked with a top-level encryption key. Mine. But the date? 6 months in the future. You didn't make this, Rena said quietly. You haven't made this. I opened it anyway. Inside were 6 documents. Autopsy records. Detailed. Union Standard format. Each file was tagged with one of our crew's biometric IDs. A Dr. Rena Myles.
A LT Corin Valle.
A Tex Saro and Helmin. A Operations Officer Nez. A Pilot Duran Zai. Each entry had vitals, time of death, trauma cause, tissue decay rate. Everything. Rena leaned in. That's my DNA print. She pointed at the data block. And my retinal sig. These are real. But they couldn't be. They hadn't happened. Not yet. Black Site Observation Bay, 1,420 hours. I printed the reports. Old school. Real paper. Spread them across the table. 6 sheets. 6 corpses. Each described with chilling precision. Corinne, collapsed near the signal chamber.
Course of des Cerebral Cascade verloren. Netz, Dekompression Trauma. Airlock brich. Saro, missing. Tagged, presumed lost.
Rena, found in medbay.
Fatal Lacerations.
Self-inflicted. I stopped reading after hers. Because the 6th page was blank.
No Name.
Just a placeholder. Classified, CMD_Miles//access, delayed / 176 hours remaining.
Rena starret at IT.
That's you, she said slowly. Your autopsy hasn't been written yet. I sat back. My throat felt dry. Or it has. And the system's waiting for the right moment to show me. Signal chamber entrance, 1,540 hours. I stood at the edge of the signal room. The hatch was closed, sealed by the override I'd put in after the incident with Corinne. My hand hovered near the panel. I didn't open it. But I could feel it pulsing through the wall.
A soft hum, like breed.
Like memory trying to be born. I used to think causality was a chain. Clean. Straight.
A before and after.
But it's not. It's a web. Threads connect in places we can't see, until it's too late. Now I'm staring at the deaths of everyone I know.
Written in my own system.
And I have 6 days to find out why I'm the only one who gets to live. It's not the visions that scare you. It's who they belong to. And when they start to feel like yours, that's when you know something's already inside you. 12 years ago, Black Site Medbay, 0327 hours. Rena was on the floor, shaking. I found her like that when the alarm triggered.
Emergency Pulse.
Flatlined vitals for 4 seconds. Then she came back, wild-eyed and drenched in sweat. I dropped to my knees beside her.
Rena, talk to ME.
What happened? Her fingers clawed at my uniform.
ISAW your motor.
I froze. What? A room. Brown carpet.
Je Abzeiling Fan. You wäre nein.
Her voice was rough. Hoarse. She was dying.
You wäre screaming.
You didn't know what to do.
I starret et her.
That was 22 years ago, I said quietly.
Rena blinked.
Then why the hell do I remember it like it was mine? Black Site Surveillance Hub, 0445 hours. We initiated a full internal scan. Neural relays, bio loops, even temporal pulse readings. Nothing abnormal. On paper, we were still ourselves. But the logs told a different story. You left your quarters at 0212, Rena said, scrolling through the feed. Walked to the observation deck. Just stood there. 10 minutes. Then back to bed. I don't remember any of that, I muttered. She brought up the clip. There I was. Blank face. Moving like I was asleep with my eyes open. And here, she tapped again. A second feed. Rena, hours earlier, alone in the medbay. Whispering to herself in my voice. You're quoting me, I said. Those are my exact words from last week's debrief. Rena looked sick. Lira. Something's crossing between us. Black Site Containment Hallway, 0620 hours. We locked down half the station. Neural dampeners in the crew quarters. Full surveillance in all main corridors. Limited access to the signal chamber. But the problem wasn't containment. It was trust. Corinne still wasn't speaking. Just sat in the corner of the lab, sketching circuits he'd never studied. Nez had nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. And I kept dreaming of places I'd never been. Worse? They felt better than real life. Memory isn't just personal. It's chemical. Biological. Transferable. That signal, whatever it is, it's not broadcasting instructions. It's bleeding identity. And it's turning all of us into one thing. One voice. One history. One fate. I just don't know which one of us it belongs to yet. There's something worse than seeing your reflection move on its own. It's seeing it smile when you're not. 12 years ago, Black Site Surveillance Archive, 0210 hours. The security feed was corrupted. Not missing, altered. We only noticed because Nez caught a drift in the camera loop timings. Barely half a second. But that half second was hiding everything. We isolated the frame. Timestamp, 0113 hours.
Corridor 7. Restricted zone.
The figure walked with purpose. Upright, confident. Black uniform. Chest badge. My rank. My name. I leaned forward and hit zoom. Same build. Same haircut. Even the little scar above the right brow, from that training drone back on Lyro's base. Run a voice sprint, I ordered. Rena loaded the enhanced audio. There was static movement, then a brief phrase. Command override accepted. Proceeding to chamber core. The system scanned the waveform. Match, 99.87%, CMD. Lira Myles. I was in my room, I said. My voice was low. I was asleep. In lockdown. No one spoke. Because we all knew what this meant. Corridor C7, 0305 hours. We retraced the steps. Nez walked them with me, holding the motion tracker. You ever been down here? She asked. Once, I said. Pre-launch system test. Nothing since. We reached the last junction. That's where it got weird. The lights started flickering. Not out, just shifting, like the power grid was breathing. Nez looked at the wall. Lira, that's not a reflection. The bulkhead was smooth steel alloy. But it shimmered like water. A ripple, subtle, distorting space itself. And for half a second, I saw myself. Looking back. Expressionless. Then gone. Black Site Command Core, 0430 hours. I called an emergency briefing. Corinne didn't show. Sarah was out cold in her bunk. Blood pressure crashed. No clear cause. I paced the room, arms tight, trying not to scream. Something's copying us, I said flatly. Not just our voices. Our memories. Movement. Behavioral cues. Even facial muscle patterns. Rena sat at the edge of the table, face pale. That's not possible unless... It's not copying, I cut in. It's pulling. They stared at me. I tapped the desk console. Pulled up the feed again. Paused it on the moment where my double turned to face the camera. And smiled. Same lips. Same eyes. But not my smile.